Hello everybody, this is weekend now and time for us to get more analytical, away from the din of the markets. In this show, Under the Lens, I go deeper into some important issues that investors like you and me face. The idea is for you to get an in-depth knowledge of the same headlines and stories that you have been reading right through the week. The matters under discussion today are important to us in every way. Why is the infrastructure in India so bad? Why is the pace of development so slow? And why is it that adequate finance does not seem to be available for this rather important segment? The second point we'll put under the lens is the possible entry of more private banks into the banking scenario in the next few months. To discuss all this with us, we have with us Mr. Kohli, till recently the Managing Director of India Infrastructure Finance Corporation Limited. The agency specially promoted by the government to provide that last-minute connectivity finance for infrastructure projects. But Mr. Kohli is not just that. He's been one of India's senior-most and most respected bankers and served as the chairman and managing director of Punjab National Bank also. Thanks, Kohli Saab, for joining us on this show. Before we plunge into the discussion with Mr. Kohli, it may be useful for viewers if I briefly describe the problems of Indian infrastructure. It is abysmal by any standards, even compared to emerging nations like China, Malaysia, leave alone the developed nations of the world. The first 50 years after we got freedom, the government of India built five-star hotels, steel plants, etc., but not enough highways, ports, airports, metros, and even power plants. The other problem is the slow progress of infrastructure in India. In China, they planned and built a 500-kilometer highway in 15 months. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, 15 months. Even in a democracy like America, government can acquire any land if it's in the public interest. But in India, just one guy can stop a whole highway. As a foreign journal recently remarked, Indians have big cars but no roads to drive them, have swanky gadgets but no power to run them. So sit back, put your feet up and enjoy the show, my friends. Remember that as always, we will have your section where you raise the questions and I'll try and deal with them with the help of Mr. Kohli. All that you need to do is to email your questions to underthelens@utvmoney.com. Mr. Kohli, you just heard my introduction. Before I go into the financing of infrastructure, why do you think infrastructure in India, the pace of infrastructure has become so slow, and what's the real issue according to you?
Yeah, of course, there is some improvement, but still it has not taken the pace which is required to be taken. The basic problem, as you mentioned, the land acquisition is a big problem. Up till now, land acquisition bill and R&R bill has not been approved by the parliament. Earlier,
that means that government cannot by itself in public interest acquire land.
No, they have to actually, this is the job of the state government to acquire land.
Okay.
So then they issue a notification under section 4 and 6. But it takes long time. The question is, suppose if you are building a highway of 100 kilometers, as per the present guidelines, NHA should acquire at least 80% of the land before awarding the contract.
Okay.
So even if you have acquired 80% of the land and remaining 20% has not been done, so that may delay the project. And the basic issue is that once you start acquiring the land, the first part you may acquire at a lesser rate, but the later part you will acquire at a...
Because people will come to know that it's got a...
So that creates a problem.
Yeah.
And that itself, I think, delays the project. I think the study done
This is the big thing, is the land acquisition. The major
that is one area. Then the environmental clearances also take a long time. Clearances from forest department, etc. It takes a long time.
It's all government, Mr. Kohli. I mean, it's one arm of the government, the other. You and I are not giving that clearance, isn't it?
I think there is a need that maybe it may be that one single window should be there to give all the clearances. But I think as is being done in case of ultra mega power. But I think this aspect has to be speeded up if we want to keep pace or achieve the target which
and now for power projects especially, latest problem is environment. You know, it's become a huge problem.
Right.
You know, on one side we have such power shortages, the other side we have every coal mining is getting stalled. We are shooting ourselves in the foot, isn't it?
And then the shortage of coal is there. If you import coal, then you are fraught to two risks. One is the currency risk, another is the freight risk. And then you don't know what will be the calorific value of the coal. So I think there are problems. Of course, steps are being taken, but it has to be taken much faster, to achieve the desired goal.
Yeah. What about the financing? Where is the financing becoming a problem?
Actually, the study done by us in IFCL, which indicates that major portion of the funding of the infrastructure is done by the banks, and particularly the public sector banks. 80% of funding is done by the public sector banks. The infrastructure financing has gone up from 1.2% in 1998 to about 11%.
For the banks, but they are basically short-term funds. No?
Their problem is basically banks have got their own problem.
One is commercial banks, isn't it?
Asset liability mismatch, because 81% of the deposit is less than 5 years. And infrastructure needs the funding over 10 or 15 or 20 years.
And they don't have a facility to take money for more than 5 years.
Yeah, that is the issue. And then there are problems regarding sectoral exposure. Then they can't lend more than 25% to a single entity or 55% to the group. So that also...
Do you think in hindsight this IDBI, ICICI, etc. sort of disappearing with this reform?
And that I think is a problem, because there is no
because in the good old days we used to go to IDBI and get 10-year money, 12-year money, isn't it?
That's why I think the government, the then finance minister announced in the budget in 2005 to have a company like IFCL, which may raise resources on the behest of the government guarantee and lend for a longer duration. So IFCL was created with a basic view to supplement bank resources.
Do you think IFCL has helped actually?
I think because it takes long time to, but I think IFCL has played its part.
Has helped, okay.
In the last, when up till March 2010, I think about 140 cases were sanctioned.
140. Just hold that thought. We'll get into a short break. Friends, I hope you enjoyed this session, which must have been informative. We need to go for a very short break, but don't go away. Mr. Kohli is still with us, and we'll be putting under the lens another topic of great importance, the impending entry of private banks and the impact of that on government banks. Remember, as always, you have your section 2 where you raise the questions and we'll try to deal with them. All that you need to do is to just put in an email question to underthelens@utbmoney.com.